All right, welcome to the Successful Working Parents podcast, the podcast where we talk to successful working parents. Go figure. Today, my guest is Communications Director of KPMG. She is the host of the Fit to Lead podcast. She is the author of Flab to Fab in 8 weeks, The Busy Mom's Guide to a Leaner Body and Healthy Eating. Ladies and gentlemen, Allison Jackson.
Thank
Allison,
you
thank
so
you.
much for having me.
Of course, of course. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. How's everything going today?
Awesome. It's almost Friday, so it's a good day.
Yeah, I feel like Thursday is basically Friday, right? Once you start
Yeah,
Thursday.
totally.
So I want to talk to you about a few things today. Before we get too into the weeds, I'd love to just have you introduce yourself really quickly. Maybe share a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about career, family life, and then we'll get into some of your areas of expertise. So maybe just quick background on your career first.
Sure. So I have spent my entire career in corporate communications. Started my career at MetLife as a copywriter in the marketing department, and quickly realized I loved employee communications. So that's really where I've spent the bulk of my career. I've been quite the brand snob. So MetLife, Champion Mortgage, Verizon, Hertz Rent a Car, and now KPMG.
Excellent. And tell us a little bit more about your home and family life.
Yeah, so I am happily married, coming up on 22 years, and I
Congrats.
have thank you, a 19-year-old son who is just finishing up his freshman year at UConn, and a 16-year-old daughter who has just started driving. So kept very busy. It's funny, you think you're busy with toddlers and teenagers bring a whole new set of of busyness.
Yeah. How are you in the car as a passenger? Is it my mom actually? I never was able to drive with her, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's how my husband is. He's like,
Okay.
I'm a little bit more relaxed, but still very stressful.
That's great. I'm curious, do you feel like your skills in communications, your skill set in your career has helped you at all as a parent?
It's funny. I think my husband and kids would disagree, but I think it has. It's funny. I even just negotiating and coaching them and trying to explain things. I definitely think that the communications experience and background has helped.
I imagine. How about the other way? Has your experience as a mother over the last 19 years or so helped your communications career?
It definitely has. If it's taught me anything, it's taught me time management and patience. And yeah, it's funny communicating with leadership. I'd say is very much like communicating with your family for sure.
Yeah, I mean, managing up is essentially the same as working with your family, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea for a book. We should talk about that later.
Yeah, I love that
S-
idea.
yeah. So speaking of books, you did write the book on healthy moms and our busy working moms becoming healthier. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. I know you work as a health and fitness coach. So tell us a little bit more about your practice and what you do.
Yeah, so it's funny. I always say that my coaching found me. So I started competing in bodybuilding back in 2012. Just finished my last show about 2 years ago and decided to retire. But during that time, as I was prepping, people are like, what are you eating? How are you working out? And so started coaching, and from there, had a blog, the website, and then really just kind of took everything that I was teaching folks and what I was, writing on my blog and put it into a book. So it's essentially kind of my 8 week program outlined in a book, and it's about helping busy moms understand meal prep is going to reduce the amount of stress you have in your life, and you'll be able to prepare healthy meals for you and your family. And then things like just tracking your food, trying to get enough steps, and looking at your schedule and really building your movement and nutrition plan around that and around the kids' sports schedules and your meetings and all that other stuff that pops up.
Yeah, I mean, just doing the quick math here, it looks like you probably had a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old when you first got into bodybuilding, right? So I assume that
Yes.
was hard.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely hard. It was again goes back to I think time management and really prioritizing. So I know a lot of people struggle with getting up early to work out, but I love the fact that I could do that while everyone was still asleep, and it didn't really impact my interaction and support of them and what they needed. So yeah, it's and they were very supportive. My husband and the kids were all very supportive of the shows and how I had to diet and be very strict and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I have never done a bodybuilding competition, but I do try to work out pretty regularly. I know sleep is so important. I guess at that point, you probably were back to getting regular sleep, right? Your kids are sleeping normally at that point. So was that a challenge as well as far as getting enough sleep and recovery?
Yeah, sleep was definitely an issue. So I would get up really early, and it's funny because I used to wear like a badge of honor, like, oh, I'm going to the gym at 4:30 in the morning. I'd be in bed by 8:30, and it's still the running joke in my family how early I go to bed. But I never realized how you really need a quality full night's sleep to function optimally. Because now I realize, I still wake up early and work out, but my sleep is much different. I'm not getting up at 4:30. I'm getting up at like 5:30, 6:30. But sleep is so important and really needs to be a part of your workout plan, like building in that rest and recovery.
Do you have any go-to tips for people that need to get a better night's sleep other than
Yeah.
just going to bed, going to bed?
Number one is to go to bed and wake up the same time every day. Weekends, weekdays. I know it's a little bit harder on the weekends, especially if you like to go out and like, have dinner and stay out a little bit later. But that's just going to make it so much easier to get up naturally. And it's not, you're hitting snooze like 5 or 6 times, struggling to get out of bed.
This was a huge realization for me and something I just couldn't do in my 20s just with my lifestyle.
Yes.
But once I was able to, settle down and, when I started dating my wife and we just weren't going out in the same way, going to bed and waking up on that Friday night into Saturday and Saturday into Sunday at a similar time. Like I get up at 6:30 every day and it's made a huge difference.
Yeah.
You
And
just
it's
can't do
funny
it the
because
other way.
oh yeah, and I agree that in your 20s, it's like you don't really realize, you wish you knew then what you know now. But plus too, with I know with kids, they're so routine oriented. So once you get them in a routine and get yourself into a routine, it's going to make everything just operate more effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about the the people that you advise. What are some of the strategies for busy working moms to fit health and nutrition into their day?
Yeah, so it's funny. I always say you either make it a priority or an excuse, right? Because we all get the same 24 hours. But what I tell busy moms is you spend your time or your money. So you're either going to spend your time shopping and meal prepping and cutting up the food and figuring out your plan for the week, or there's lots of options to, use HelloFresh or Hungry Root or there's lots of different meal prep services now. So it really depends on how much time and effort you have to dedicate. But it really, I think people overcomplicate it. It's literally a matter of making your plan for the week. I always say dinner's the hardest, especially with little kids. Plan and to get them involved. Ask them what's their favorite meal for dinner. Plan the week, then you shop to that. And when we say meal prep, it's not about cooking and having every meal ready. It's about just having it where you could just grab it and throw it in the oven. So maybe it's like sheet pan chicken fajitas. So you have the sheet pan ready and you just throw it in the oven. Anything to reduce the amount of stress you have during the week is just going to make it so much easier.
Yeah, love that. So when you're actually doing bodybuilding, I assume you had to be a little stricter. So I don't know if your kids were also eating boneless, skinless chicken breast and rice with you, but I think it's you have a little more wiggle room when you're just trying to eat healthy and not necessarily cut down to single digit body fat, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, for example, like, if the family's having hamburgers, I would just take the hamburger and chop it up and put it over a salad. So it was
Okay.
just taking whatever they were having and really modifying it. I tried not to
Right.
force them to have, the grilled chicken breast, broccoli, and rice. But
Yeah.
they might have stir fry, and I might just have it plain. So there are ways to get around it.
Sure. Do you find that it's the same, the same strategy works for most women and most people you work with, or are there certain things that work for certain people and certain things that work for others?
I think when it comes down to it, if you don't have any health issues or other concerns, it's calories in versus calories out. So I always tell folks track your food, know how much food you're eating, and then track your steps to know how much you're working out, how much movement you're getting, and then it's really just evaluating where you need to make change. And a lot of times people think, oh, I have to starve myself and eat 1,200 calories, but it's really just making little changes. So don't put the cheese and mayo on that sandwich, or look at how much sugar and milk you're putting in your coffee. It's those little tweaks that you'll start to see changes with. You don't have to just do a whole overhaul and go keto or eat completely clean or eliminate all the carbs. It's just little changes that really will make a difference.
I started getting into tracking my macros during kind of the beginning of COVID because I was just home and cooking more, really broke my heart to see the breakdown of peanut butter and how little peanut butter is so many calories. It was just really a heartbreaking experience.
Yes, and I think most people are also heartbroken to find out that it's not a source of protein, that it's really a fat source with a little bit of protein. But yeah, that avocado, anything high in fat, which tastes so good, yeah, it's like you only get a little dab before it jacks up your calories and macros.
Yeah, for those of you listening, if you love peanut butter and you don't want to be upset about it, just don't look into it too much. Just eat it and enjoy it.
Good advice. That's definitely good
Yeah.
advice.
So tell us a little bit more about your practice, right? Like how you're able to. We talked already about you have a career in communications, and you also have this practice on the side. So tell us a bit more about how you actually juggle that.
Yeah, so it's about fitting in those little pieces throughout the day, right? So for me, obviously my priority is my family, then it's work, then it's my business. So I usually try to do my business outside of work hours. So before work, lunchtime, after work, weekends, finding just little pockets of time. Instead of surfing the internet or binging Netflix, it's really taking that time and dedicating it towards the business, whether that's coming up with content and marketing, coaching clients, those sort of things.
Yeah. So tell me more about that. So is it mostly either being one on one with a customer with a client or creating content? Like what are some of the things that you're doing?
Yeah, so I have a monthly and weekly newsletter. So there's creating content for that. I do have a virtual assistant that helps me post to social media. So I highly recommend if you are working full time and having a business, get help. It's hard to be a one woman or one man show and do it all yourself. I have a podcast that comes out weekly. And then again, I do one-on-one coaching. I do group coaching. I also do a lot of public speaking. So at retreats and for corporations and stuff around how to focus on your wellness.
Which of those channels would you say brings you the most clients?
I would say I probably get the most clients from social media and referrals
That's great. Do
for
you
sure.
find that the podcast has helped you? Do you consider that part of your social media presence, the podcast, or is that a different channel?
I do because I promote it throughout all my social media platforms. And it's funny, it's a great way to just meet cool people like you. I love being able to kind of connect with people. It's a great door opener.
Sure.
So yeah, it's just an awesome way to kind of network, meet people, learn about different topics that you're interested in.
Is this something that you had to set expectations with work or your career, or is this something that you've just made it clear you do it outside of work, or do they know?
So yeah, so they know I had to fill out all kinds of paperwork, get vetted, make sure
Oh, you
isn't a
did.
conflict of interest,
Oh,
sign things
wow.
that say I'm not doing work, not doing business stuff during work. So yeah, I'm fully sanctioned, and they're well aware that I have a little side business, but I also try to bring that to work. So a lot of the speaking engagements are work functions, client events, lunch and learns. I've lead like meditation. I've led yoga sessions. So they really benefit from what I'm doing, as my little passion side hustle, which I love. And that's one of the reasons that I've been there for so long is that they let me do that.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine with like a larger company that's probably a little more formal, has some things in place. You probably have to just clear it a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And as a big four, they're very risk adverse, as all of the big four is. So they just want to make sure they cross their T's and dot their I's.
Sure. I imagine that you're probably pretty good with the written word and just with creating content with a background in communications. Has that been like a pretty natural progression for you?
Yeah, it's funny. The only I don't want to say struggle, but so when I write for corporate, I'm writing in a very obviously corporate voice. A lot of times I'm writing for executives, and when I'm writing for social media, it's much more casual, conversational. You're speaking to a different audience, so it's really kind of changing the tone. That's probably been the biggest trouble, and learning to be vulnerable on social media. I think that's a great way to connect with people and be relatable. So that's been hard too because I am so used to being more kind of corporate formal.
Yeah. So you can kind of like show another side of yourself or try to, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Yeah. Has that been tough?
It has. It has.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've had several business coaches, and I actually have a coach right now helping me like with the storytelling and with kind of being more vulnerable and what does that look like on social media and how do you write that way, which has been really helpful. It's actually really interesting.
What's something you learned about how to just be more vulnerable and put yourself out there more?
Really telling stories. So telling personal stories that people may not know or have not seen. With like, for me, like always struggled with my weight. I think people think that I've always been thin or naturally thin. And it's something I struggled with since I was in my preteens. So sharing stories of, I've gone from when I was like 11 and 12 covering up in a bathing suit. Like I always wore a t-shirt when I swam in the pool to getting on stage in a bikini and high heels and competing in bodybuilding. People are like, "Oh, you're so intimidating." I'm like, "Yeah, but it wasn't always that way. I was, I struggled too."
Yeah, I'm sure everybody struggles with that. I certainly have struggled with just putting yourself out there in different ways and just sort of kind of, exposing yourself. And it's been helpful for me to think just, no, everybody's thinking about themselves really. I found that that's been helpful as well. Like no one's really cares that much as you do for sure.
Yes, it's so funny you say that. I think I posted that not that long ago. Like you think about yourself way more than everybody else does.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Certainly that's the case for me. Um, Tell me a little bit more about just like the way fitness has had an impact on your life. How has it helped you kind of show up at work, show up for your family?
Yeah, so it's funny. I always say I'm a lifelong fitness enthusiast. I used to, lift weights on my dad's weight bench in our unfinished basement. I played field hockey in high school and college. I always loved trying like triathlons, marathons, like any sport, just to kind of test and see what my body could do. Um, and then with bodybuilding, it was a bucket list item that all of a sudden I got the bug and got hooked. It just kept coming back to it. And it really helped skyrocket my confidence at work. It really helped me realize like you could do anything you put your mind to. I know it sounds so cliche, but I was
But
like, if I
true.
could do this, right? It's
Yeah.
true though. It's like when you have accomplishments like that, whether, anything you kind of, climbing mountains, jumping out of airplanes, it's just, it skyrockets your confidence.
Yeah, that's great. What have you seen from some of your clients? Do they come to you with similar goals or they have all kinds of different goals? Like what are some of the results that you've seen and some of the things that they're looking to do?
Yeah, so a lot of my clients come to me for weight loss. I don't coach competitors because I would never be able to coach myself. Like I feel like that takes a special coach. But I really just help women that are stressed out. Maybe they used to be fit and just kind of got out of shape. Maybe they have 10 or 20 pounds to lose and they just don't know where to start. And there's just so much information, and every week there's a new diet of the week. Just helping educate them. That is what I think I love the most, is just helping women realize what is in food. Like we said about the peanut butter, right? Helping them understand like what's in the food you're eating and portions and that sort of thing. So, and obviously helping them reach their goals of maybe it's lowering their blood sugar, maybe it's lowering their cholesterol. But if weight loss is the goal, that's usually the way you're going to get those other health benefits.
Yeah. The tragic peanut butter lesson that we all have to learn eventually.
So true.
Yeah. Um, when it comes to your practice, kind of building the side business, what has been the most the most interesting dynamic between juggling all that with your family life? Like, have you had to kind of like set certain boundaries with your kids and your husband to do things at certain times, or have they pitched in with you?
Yeah, it's funny. When the kids were younger, I used to try to pull them into everything. So I used to do a lot of like I was selling these protein snacks. So I'd take them to like fairs with me and we get a table and I'd put them to work. They were wearing my t-shirts and stuff. They've always been very supportive. And it's funny because I'll be like, I'm recording a podcast or I'm doing, coaching a client, I have a client call. And they're just like, yeah, like to them, it's like just a part of our family life. Like I don't think they see any different. It's been so integrated. I officially launched the business in 2016. So you figure that's been 7 years. To your point, my kids have kind of grown up with this as part of their lives.
Yeah, that's great. What's sort of the vision for the future for you? Do you see kind of growing this practice in a larger way? Do you have, like, kind of what's your goals for the next couple of years?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm just evaluating that now. Like, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? And really leaning into the things that I enjoy the most. So I would say the coaching, the one-on-one coaching, I enjoy the most. The presentations. So looking at really kind of leaning into that more and doing less of what I don't like. Like trying to get rid of the administrative stuff because it eats you alive. Um, Always trying to improve processes and be more efficient and all that stuff. And social media, it's like I said, where I get most of my clients, but it's a drain, right? Because it's like you are constantly, it's a treadmill that you're constantly putting out stuff. So even looking at that, like, are there other ways to get out in front of potential clients other than social media? I mean, people had businesses before the internet, right? There's got to
That's
be other
true.
ways.
Yeah, they did. Yellow pages, maybe.
Yeah, there you go. Going old school.
What? Tell me a little bit more about your social media experiences. I mean, do you is the struggle around just getting kind of sucked in sometimes, and then it's a time suck, or is it also just dealing with negative comments and stuff like that, a little of both?
I think it's trying to be everywhere all the time. So, I started out on Facebook. Then Instagram popped onto the scene. That was all the rage. I realized my ideal clients on LinkedIn. So then leaning into LinkedIn, everyone's like, oh, YouTube, oh, Pinterest. It's like that shiny object syndrome, right? And it's like whack a mole trying to be everywhere. So what I've been trying to do is really take a piece of content, whether it's the podcast or I do like Fit Tip Friday videos, and just repurposing that content like across the platforms and really instead of feeling like you have to constantly generate content, like just repurpose it and reuse it. Because what do they say? You have to see something like 7 times before it resonates with you.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's really the key. I think being able to repurpose and just having it spread out instead of doing a different post for each platform. What about
Yeah.
TikTok? Are you on there yet?
My kids will not let me on TikTok, although they continue to send me videos. I feel like I'm missing out.
What a bottleneck to the business, you know?
I know. And then I'm like, are my
Uh,
clients really on TikTok? And then I talk to people and they're like, well, I just watch videos. I get in and get out. I'm like, okay.
yeah, yeah. I think you'd be surprised now. I think in the last, the demographics definitely shifted in the last couple of years.
Are you a big TikToker?
I mean, I like to say no. It's certainly, talking about the time suck. I have to kind of like set a timer because you could just you can scroll endlessly, and it's just not good for you. So
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it
I
has some
agree.
entertainment, and I do learn stuff from it. It curates it really well. Like I do see a lot of fitness stuff on my page, and so
Interesting. I might have to
yeah, it
I might
might be
have to
something
not
to
tell my
consider.
kids and get in on that.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe your daughter will run it for you, and she'll approve of that way.
That would be beautiful.
Yeah. Um, is there anything else that you wanted to share about just the way you've been able to build your side hustle while having a successful career and being a busy mother? I think that's something that a lot of people think about. I mean, I certainly have as well. Doing the corporate thing too. People always think about how can they build a side hustle? How can they you know create something else on the side and side income? Love to hear anything else
Yeah.
you have to say about that.
Yeah. So what I would say is definitely test it out. Like the way I started was I just started coaching. I put it out there like, hey, I'm doing coaching. I started at a really low cost just to get the testimonials, to get the change in people, get the results. So I would say start there if you have an idea or you're thinking about it. Just do it. Like don't wait. I mean, the time's going to pass anyway, and then you're going to kick yourself for not doing it. And then I would say just be open with everyone that's involved, whether it is your family, your employer. Get everyone on board and get them involved because then they're going to be vested in it. They're going to be cheering you on and wanting to help. I keep asking my kids just be my social media manager and just take over.
Sure.
They're at the point where they're like, no, mom. But I would say, as much as you could get them involved, do it. And then again, just prioritize your time and definitely take time for yourself. That was one thing I felt like I started to get burnt out because I was, I'd be, you work and sometimes you have crazy days at work and then you're trying to do your business stuff. Making sure you carve out space to manage your energy and that there's some space and time there.
Yeah, I like what you said about just starting. I think that's definitely something I've had a hard time with in the past, and I know other people struggle with that too. Can you remember like how much time, looking back, like how much time do you think you wasted from when you should have just started to when you finally did?
So much time. And then you feel like,
Yeah.
am I doing it right? And you're like hiring all different coaches and reading all different books, and you get analysis paralysis. And that's
Yeah.
like the biggest thing. Like just take action, take sloppy action.
Yeah.
And it's just progress,
Yeah.
not perfection, right? Done is, what do they say? Thinking about it's like the enemy of done or whatever. Yeah, I said just do it, try it, and just make mistakes along the way. Like there is no perfect way to do it all.
Yeah. That's great. I think that's really important. I mean, the
And
analysis by
and the other,
paralysis.
you don't need it. Yeah, and you don't need a website. Like you could literally get started as simple as like on Instagram or on Facebook or with Google links. Google, like half my business is all on Google.
That's great. Yeah. I'm interested in kind of those early days, because I think, people listening that haven't gotten there yet, like what are what are you doing the first month? Like what are really the first steps?
Yeah, I said if I started over, the first thing I would start doing is starting an email list. And there's a lot of different ways you could do that. Like they always talk about, having like a freebie, like something like value added information. So for me, I have a Get Lean in 30 guide, and it's just like kind of an eating plan and guide for 30 days if you just need help with your nutrition. So people enter their email and they get that for free, and you start building an email list. Because what happens is you don't know what's going to happen. The algorithms change. You don't know what's going to happen with Facebook, what's happened with Twitter, with the social media platforms. You definitely want to have, they call it your owned real estate. So your email list is your people. Um, and then I would say, with Google Docs and with Google, there's so many different, like easy, if you wanted a website that just have like a storefront, there's so many easy ways to do that with Wix. And there's so many options now than there was when I first started. But I would say just put it out there to family and friends, charge a nominal fee, try out whether it's a service, if it's a product. I'm not obviously as well versed in products, but obviously with Amazon and eBay and Facebook Marketplace, there's a million things you could do with that.
Sure. Talk a little more about the book that you wrote. I guess you combined some blog posts, and then did you have somebody format it for you, or how did you put that together?
Yeah, so I had an editor, so I took all the blog posts, I created chapters, and then I wrote any of the sections that I was missing. I created a bunch of templates and different things. But I did hire an editor from Upwork. I hired a book cover designer from Upwork, and they helped put it all together. And then I just uploaded it to Amazon through their KDP, like their self-publishing platform. And that was it. And then you create, you have your ebook, you have your hardcover book. I have not done an audiobook, even though people are telling me you should do the audiobook. I'm like, okay. I don't know how many people are listening to a fitness audiobook.
You'd be surprised. I've definitely
But
listened to audiobooks where I'm like, I probably should have read this one, but I think, fitness, that could work.
yeah, all right. So maybe that's going to put that on my to-do list. Um, and actually, speaking of to-do lists, that's another one. Is a lot of times I feel like we have lists of things to do, but it's how impactful are they? So making sure when it comes to your business and even at work and family, like is your to-do list impactful, or is it just things that you're doing to get done to be productive? Because I think it's that dopamine hit of checking the box or crossing it off the list.
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you're talking about the email list. I've heard that a few times where you can have a successful business on Instagram, but you never know when the algorithm's going to change, or if the company is just going to change something drastically. So having the emails is really important. How are
Yeah.
you capturing emails?
So right now I use a platform called Kajabi, and it's expensive and it includes everything. Like you can host courses, it has email, it has your website, it has a shopping cart, like it has everything. That's why I love it, because it's like I hate having like 10 different things. So my email list is in Kajabi.
Gotcha. And then you're promoting that. You're pointing different lead magnets towards it.
Yeah, so I have that Get Lean guide. I have a link on my LinkedIn profile. I have it on my Instagram profile, and then like sometimes I'll promote it on like my stories, or I'll do a post and say, "Oh, do you need help with your nutrition? Grab this guide." So trying to grow that list all the time is super important. And
That's
then free
great.
trainings. Free trainings is another way to grow the list too.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, I have one final question for you. Um, we are expecting our first child in July.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
thank you. What advice do you have for me?
Oh, that's such a good one. Okay, so some of it's going to probably sound familiar. It's going to be nap when they nap. And if they're crying, as long as they're fed and their diaper is changed, most likely nothing is wrong. Sometimes they just
Okay,
cry to cry for stress.
great. How about any advice? My wife, we just started our third trimester yesterday. So any advice about being a husband over the next 3 months?
Ooh, weight on her hand and foot. You have no idea what she's going through.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Yeah.
Rub her feet, rub her back. Like, yeah.
Okay. I'm sure she's listening.
It's like
So
it's
I
like
guess,
someone else takes over your body and you're just like, I just
sure.
want my body back.
Yeah. Okay. That's very helpful. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, I appreciate your time today. Anything you want to plug? Where can people connect with you? Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah. So you can visit my website. It's www.allisonjacksonfitness.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn, on Instagram. I would love that. And I am actually getting ready to launch a new course. So coming soon. I'm doing a free training. So definitely visit the website and sign up.
All right. Allison Jackson, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.